This show is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. The content on this show is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such condition.
This is Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton, exploring the science of functional medicine and the power of healing from within. Breathe in. Breathe out. And now your host, Dr. Beth Claxton.
Good morning and welcome back to Rooted in Healing. I'm your host, Dr. Beth Claxton, and I have a special guest today named Dr. Joan Ifland, who's a food addiction specialist. And before we get to that interview, I want to talk a little bit about food addiction and food and health and how much it's impacting our population. I mentioned this in the interview. I started medical school in 1989, and that was a time where I remember people were pretty healthy. And actually the reason that I became an obstetrician gynecologist is because I thought that you could only get pregnant if you were healthy, and I really liked working with healthy people, and I loved the whole practice, the whole prospect of giving birth and the miracle of that. And I liked working with healthy people, and I thought that you could only get pregnant if you were healthy. And I've really learned that that's not true. So my progression through my career as I finished residency or finished medical school, thinking that gestational diabetes it happened sometimes, maybe to the unfortunate people or the people who, maybe had some poor decisions or poor genetics, really. But as my career unfolded and before I actually left the big community health center where I was working, gestational diabetes and insulin resistance actually became very, very common. I watched diabetes unfold and become quite common, and the population became heavier and heavier, and we're carrying around more and more adipose tissue, which we call obesity. And I started putting things together, looking at what was available on the shelves, what was happening in the kitchens, which was that people weren't cooking so much. People were microwaving. I remember when the microwave came out and how easy it was to buy something frozen and put it in the microwave, and that was dinner. That, thank goodness, didn't happen in my house, but it did happen. I also had the fortune of living abroad for a year before I went to medical school, and saw how other cultures really cook food from very, very basic ingredients. And then came home to the United States and saw how convenient everything was. And then fast food started becoming more and more available, and advertisements. And I watched the U.S. population becoming more and more unhealthy as this fast food and processed food became more available. And then about 4 years ago, I heard Dr. Ifland interviewed, and it all started making sense. And her quest to figure out what was going on from a business and economic standpoint, she started putting together how this has all been happening and going down with the food industry, with the government, and now here we are in a healthcare crisis in our country. And I don't know if the food industry and the medical schools and who's in cahoots with who, but it does seem to be quite interrelated. And Dr. Ifland is offering an amazing program and an offering that will help us identify if our own food addictions and the ways that we can help each other and that we can help ourselves overcome this. We can learn to identify the habits in our bodies that mean that we are addicted to certain foods. I think that she talks more about all of this, and I think it's time to go to the interview. If you have any questions, you can go on to my website at bethclaxtonmd.com. There's a place to leave emails. I'm happy to engage with anyone that has more questions on this topic. I hope to post Dr. Ifland's video and make this more and more available to everyone. Come visit me. We'll have a conversation, and we're going to go to break and come back and get to talk with Dr. Ifland.
And now, more Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton.
Thanks for coming back to join us. And today we have Dr. Joan Ifland, a very special guest, and you will think so too after you listen to what she has to say. Dr. Ifland has been creating breakthroughs in recovery from food addiction from 1999 with her first popular book to 2018 when her textbook, Processed Food Addiction, Foundations, Assessment, and Recovery was published. Dr. Ifland is a fellow of the American College of Nutrition. She earned her PhD in addictive nutrition at Union Institute and University, her MBA at Stanford Business School, and her BA in economics and political science at Oberlin College. She was selected by the Oprah Winfrey Network as the food addiction specialist on the Book of John Gray. She's innovated in online services such as the Addiction Reset Community, which is found at www.foodaddictionreset.com. She has founded sites which provide free services, including the Facebook group Food Addiction Education and Handouts. Reset Week is the first online live video program for withdrawal from processed foods, and that started in 2018. Dr. Ifland's Meal Prep Manual is a breakthrough system to easily manage meals, which resolves a major barrier to recovery from food addiction. And Dr. Ifland is the lead author of the first scholarly publication describing refined food addiction and the definition of addictive foods. She does have a training program, which is called Addiction Reset Community. And she just mentioned to me it was recently a patented creation. So how much more information do you need? Dr. Ifland lives in Seattle, and I'm so glad to have her with us on the phone in Sedona. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth. I'm so delighted to be here.
Yes, so we have a group that listens to this radio show and our podcast, and I wanted to talk with you about food. Really, we've mentioned it. We talked with a nutritionist early, a dietitian, registered dietitian early on, and I wanted to talk with you about food and the food industry because this is your specialty, and so many people don't realize it.
Right.
What's
well,
really
thank you. It's a
great
topic. That's a good one to pick.
Yeah. So the standard American diet today, that's what we know it as in the functional medicine world and in your world, is filled with highly processed foods. Go ahead.
It's pretty shocking. There's a group in Brazil, academics who track these things, and Americans are eating 73% of their calories in these highly addictive processed foods. And it's hard to imagine until you go into the grocery store and you look at what people are putting in their grocery carts, and it is about 73% of sugars, flours, gluten, excessive salt, dairy, excessive fat, and caffeine, and food additives. So it's pretty shocking, but it's very consistent with what else we see. So if somebody says, oh, no, that's not possible, everybody would be sick if they were eating that much processed foods. And then you look at other studies, 93% of Americans over the age of 20 have a diet-related diagnosis. It's the evidence is very consistent across the board that we are suffering under a tsunami of these processed foods and the illnesses, the consequences. Yeah, it's a good question.
And you don't even call them foods. You call them food-like substances.
Because of the way the brain reacts to them.
Say more
and
about
this
that.
is the bottom line. You cannot get around this, which is food activates a feeding pathway in the brain. It's called the agouti pathway. Processed foods do not activate that pathway. They activate the drug pathways. They activate the addiction pathways, which the dopamine, serotonin, cannabinoid, and opioid pathways. So the body doesn't think that these are foods.
Wow.
Yeah, the brain doesn't think they're foods. The brain's not reacting as if they were food. The brain is reacting as if they were drugs.
So the first time I heard you speak, when I wanted to reach out to you, I heard you talking about the tobacco industry. Can you go into that story about the tobacco industry and the juice boxes?
Yes. It's quite a relief. I like telling the story because when people hear it, they are relieved. They're relieved of one crucial piece, which is, this is not my fault. I didn't bring this on myself. Parents are like, oh my gosh, I did not give this to my children. It's a business model. So in the mid-1980s, you see this very sudden, dramatic event, which nobody realized what it meant. But you see the tobacco industry suddenly buying the big food processors. They bought Kraft, Nabisco, and General Foods in 3 very short years, 1985 to 1988. And all you have to do to really understand what happened to us, what happened to our countries, what happened to the world, just ask yourself this question. Why would people, executives, who are expert in addiction marketing, why would they go into processed foods? And the answer is because they saw the opportunity to bring their addiction business model over to processed foods. It's a 5-part business model, and you have to have all 5 parts working for it to work. But they honed this model in the tobacco industry. And when high fructose corn syrup came onto the market in 1980, boom, all of a sudden they had the 5th element. You need all 5 elements, and with the advent, the introduction of high fructose corn syrup, they had their 5th. And so the 5, go ahead.
So what was happening also at this time, if I'm correct, that was when people were learning that smoking wasn't good for you.
They were quitting smoking.
So they had to
The tobacco industry was losing its market.
Right.
They needed a new market to move into, and boom, there it was.
Okay. And then high fructose corn syrup.
Yes. So the 5 elements of the model are, you have to have addictive substances that you can hide Nobody's going to buy a product repeatedly knowing that it's going to give them addiction. Mm-hmm. So they hid extra nicotine in cigarettes. Mm-hmm. They added pyrazine to make the nicotine more addictive. And when they came over to processed foods, they ramped up the sugar, fat, salt in the products right to the point to where the consumer would reject it. And there was a particular consultant, Howard Moskowitz, mm-hmm. who was brilliant at doing exactly that. So hiding addictive substances in the products, you buy a loaf of bread in 1970, no problem. You buy that loaf of bread in 1990, now that it's loaded up with sugar, fat, salt, you eat one slice, and then you have a craving for another slice, and mm-hmm. another slice, and another slice. The hidden addictive ingredients in the product trigger the overeating. Mm-hmm. So that's number one, hidden addictive products, substances in the products. Number two, affordability. And that's where the high fructose corn syrup came in. A great researcher, endocrinologist, Rob Lustig, has shown us in research that high fructose corn syrup goes through the body like corn alcohol. Mm. And I have all these products loaded up with it. What happened was high fructose corn syrup is cheap. It has a lot of producers. It's very competitively priced. And that was what they needed. That's what the tobacco industry needed. Mm-hmm. Before that, they were dependent on the sugar industry in Florida. Well, that's just like another drug industry. It's a few producers. It's very expensive. Mm-hmm. Now you're dependent on these sugar producers who are, they're not the nicest people on the planet. So the tobacco industry hung back. Mm. But once high fructose corn syrup came on the market, then it was full steam ahead.
And corn
so you had the hidden addictive ingredients, mm-hmm. you had the affordability, mm-hmm. the low prices, mm-hmm. you had availability. Mm-hmm. So as they were taking out the cigarette vending machines, they were putting in the snack and soda machines. Mm-hmm. So you could transfer availability right over. The convenience stores got packed with these addictive foods. The big box grocery stores were opening. You had 24-hour availability. Mm-hmm. And so you got the third A, availability. Now you have hidden addictive substances. You have affordability. You have availability. And they went straight for the children. Mm-hmm. And that's the fourth A, young age of onset. So you have the advertising budgets just doubling, quadrupling. You have the number of Saturday morning cartoon commercials mm-hmm. for processed foods going from like 125. The advertising budgets. You have the number of going from like 125, which is already incredible for mm-hmm. one Saturday morning, right. going all the way up to 500 and something in that same time period. So that takes us to young age of onset, and then the fifth A, which is advertising. Mm-hmm. They just loaded up the advertising. Mm-hmm. It's
and we all remember the jingles.
Model.
We remember those jingles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I bet most people could recite at least 5 jingles for processed foods.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing, corn is a crop that's subsidized by the government.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's another piece of it. You do need government subsidies because, remember, go back up to the A for affordability. Mm-hmm. If it's too expensive, you can't buy it often enough to get addicted to it. But with those government subsidies, with corn being one of the biggest crops in the United States, mm-hmm. it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard to get those prices down.
Yeah, and what's so interesting in this timeline is that this was right around the time when I was beginning medical school. And so when I started medical school, people really weren't that sick, and thyroid disease was pretty rare, and it was like, oh my gosh, I saw someone with a goiter today. Like, oh, how cool is that? But now it's everybody's got something going on with their thyroid, it seems. So I've watched people get sicker, more obese, like diabetes is rampant. We all know that. But tell me what you know about the impact on the brain and body when processed foods are consumed.
Well, I'm going to go back to Rob Lustig.
Yeah.
In his book, Metabolical, he has a chapter on the 8 ways in which processed foods, I'm going to use a pretty strong word here, but I think it's a good word. They cripple cells. And if you have crippled cells, then you have crippled systems. So circulation, digestion, hormone, nervous system, they're all not functioning very well. So this is, to me, it's one syndrome. It's processed food toxicity.
Yeah.
But we put different labels on it. I have a video. If any of your listeners would like this video, they can email me. It's called How Processed Foods Are Related to 20 Chronic Illnesses. But all of the mechanisms, so the chronic illnesses are diabetes and obesity and heart disease. It's cancer. It's sleep disturbance. It's depression, anxiety. It's joint pain. It's fatigue. And it just goes on and on. I have 20 of these. And the video shows a study showing the relationship of the disease to processed foods. What happens in the body when you take the processed foods out that promotes the remission, and then how many billions of dollars this disease creates in revenue for the medical industry.
Exactly.
So I know this is very rough, and as an undergraduate economist, I hesitate to say this, but somewhere in the neighborhood, well over half, maybe as much as 90% of medical industry revenues comes from these processed food related diseases.
I've often wondered how they're connected, like who's sleeping with who.
Yeah, well, the medical industry, of course, I know you didn't get any training in the depth of support that's required to make substantial lifestyle changes. So the medical industry was set up, I think. My daughter's an MD, and I watched her training over the years. She saw what happened in our household when we got the processed foods out. She was 11 years old. Everybody got well. So I know that she went through a training thinking, well, when I get out there, I'm going to tell people not to eat processed foods and they'll get well. It requires to make these diet changes, lifestyle changes, requires much, much more than an 8-minute office visit.
Yes.
Because you have the A for advertising, the 5th A of those 5 A's for the business market, business model. You're just constantly being bombarded with triggers that flood your brain with cravings, pull the blood supply away from the frontal lobe, and you don't have your decision-making capacity anymore. If there's one thing that I hope your listeners walk away with, it's this. Processed food cravings prevent you from making decisions. Decision-making happens in the frontal lobe. When you've been bombarded with food stimulation, with triggers, with cues, with reminders, which is blanketed in our culture, your brain is flooding with cravings. There's not enough blood supply to go to the frontal lobe to make a decision.
Right, and that's also...
You're not making a decision.
That's
so
the
when
addiction.
people say, oh, make a better decision.
Right.
No,
can't.
that's not realistic.
And it's the addiction pathway that's in the center primitive brain, and that's not that can't get out to the the frontal lobe, and also
Right.
the yeast and those toxins, the other things that build up in our body, and then the yeast is making you crave sugar as well.
Mm-hmm.
So all the side effects and things.
It's a mess.
Yeah,
it's a mess.
And I was thinking also, the pediatricians are the ones that could probably make the most impact, because the young age is also one of the A's, correct?
Yeah.
And
well, here's the thing, Beth. Here's the thing, which is, doctors are getting on this. I hear again and again doctors saying, get the processed foods out of your diet. But here's the reality of it. Everybody around us is eating processed foods. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to choose not to eat processed foods, we're going to be abnormal.
Right.
And the brain fights being abnormal. Mm-hmm. Survival for humans, whether you're a creationist or an evolutionist, survival for humans is being in a group, accepted by the group, valued by the group, so that when the hyenas come or the neighboring tribe come, the group will defend you. Mm-hmm. And that is humans' primary survival mechanism. Fighting off the hyenas, finding food, preventing the neighboring tribe from enslaving us. Their threats, we're relatively small mammals, and so we're just a nice, easy meal for a predator.
Yeah.
We have to be in a group to survive. Mm-hmm. So above anything in a human brain, with one exception, we're going to copy the people around us. And there's a network of specialized brain cells all throughout the brain. Mm-hmm. They're called mirror neurons because they literally do that. Mm-hmm. They watch what other people are doing, and they will watch the people on screens. So mirror neurons do not understand screens. They'll copy somebody on a screen. They literally instruct the brain cells around them to copy what they're seeing. Mm-hmm. So this is the basis for all of our programs. If we broadcast live, there's a live host there, a trained host, 15 hours out of every 24 around the clock, so that if you wake up in the middle of the night and you have a binge urge, you can get on the screen with live people. Now, they're on the other side of the world. We have people literally around the world who host, so we're not disrupting anybody's sleep. Mm-hmm. And they can talk to somebody. Mm. We have programming. We're reading books, or we're holding conversations, or people are checking in, or we're doing exercises. It's like a TV station on Zoom. But the cool thing is that when somebody opens that screen, maybe their cravings are out of control, but coming into a community that accepts you and cherishes you releases oxytocin in the body, and that regulates cravings.
That's beautiful.
So what doctors need is they need a partner. So after that 8-minute visit, when they know that their patient would be better off without the processed foods, they need to be handing that patient over to a program like ours. Mm-hmm. Peer support. There's a lot of new research on the essential role of peer support in recovering from disease, from mental challenges, from injuries, from trauma, from abuse. These studies are coming out, review articles. I've seen 5 review articles on the role of peer support in recovery of health in the last 5 years, between 2020 and 2025.
Well, it speaks to
So I think doctors are going to wake up to the essential need for peer support in a comprehensive program like ours for making these lifestyle changes. Because if you can always, day after day, hour after hour, get on a screen with people who don't eat processed foods, who get enough sleep, who take care of themselves, have expert self-care skills, then your mirror neurons are safe. They're copying good stuff, good behavior, what we've always wanted to do, but we couldn't because our mirror neurons were copying people who were eating poorly, etc. So now, finally, there's a solution, and that combination of those factors is what we were awarded the patent for.
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so doctors now, I've always felt like doctors were set up. They're told, you can fix anything, and they're empowered, and they're made to feel powerful. And then they get out in the world, and they experience what you just described, which is people getting sicker and sicker instead of better and better.
Right.
And whether it's a doctor or a nurse or a therapist or a pharmacist, they're all experiencing the same discouraging decline in their patients. It's because they don't have a peer support partner.
Right. We all need connection. Even the doctors. The doctors need a group to be connected with. And for the functional medicine community, we have our, that's a smaller group, and we have our people. But it's really difficult. And what I'm realizing is that doctors are taught to make a diagnosis, assign a number, an ICD-10 code to that, which links to procedures and medications, and that's the 8-minute visit, and you're on to the next. So taking time to even talk about diet isn't a part of that.
No. And I've done some reading about peer support versus, so these articles, all these review articles, the federal guidelines, they all say the same thing. The medical community, the licensed medical professionals, have very specific responsibilities. They diagnose, they test, they write treatment plans, they prescribe, they can do the documentation to file for insurance. That is exactly what they're licensed to do.
Right.
But that is not what creates a profound change in behavior.
I don't think that's why most of us went to medical school, honestly.
No, you went to medical school to do these incredibly important life-saving things. It's the peer support community that creates the relationships. And when you have that peer support, you get other critical things for that sick person. You get acceptance. You get the end of, I'm in this by myself. You get the end of isolation. You get somebody who you can copy for skills. So these are shared life experiences. This is how I got over this. So you've got your mirror neurons copying somebody. And so all of those things, isolation, lack of skills, feeling abnormal, those are all very stressful. And when you have stress in a human body, the blood is not circulating properly. Nutrients are not getting to cells. So it's very hard for the person to get well. But when you have peer support, you can just relax into, okay, this person understands me, they accept me, I'm not alone in this, and they did it that way, I can do it that way too. This is why these 5 review articles are saying peer support is essential, not optional, integral to recovery from a whole range of things, all the way from, injuries to war experiences and schizophrenia. The peer support is essential.
So I'm curious where your organization is finding support to do the work, because I would imagine that it's probably not from traditional insurance companies, is it?
Oh, no.
No. Where are you getting the funding?
So it's really a pretty amazing story. Mm-hmm. I am answering your question, but almost 6 years ago I was hit by a van being driven by a corporate employee, and it was fairly serious, so I got quite a substantial settlement. Mm-hmm. I have been financing our operations myself. The good news is I'm not having to compromise to satisfy a business partner. Right. I don't have any outside investors, so I don't have to, warp programs in order to create profit. We don't do any of that. Mm-hmm. There is some good news here, Beth, which is that Medicaid last year started reimbursing for peer support.
Interesting.
And I'm just really hopeful. We train advocates. So we have these highly trained advocates in our program who have tons of skills, motivational interviewing skills. They understand processed food dynamics and all the other self-care dynamics, the sleep, the movement, the staying away from the stressful television. Their skills combined with the resources of the ARC. The ARC is our program. Mm-hmm. We see all kinds of incurable diseases go into remission. Now, I have to be careful here not to make claims.
Right.
But when you get you take away I can't eliminate processed foods because then I'll be abnormal. You take that away, you create normalcy around it. You get the processed foods out gradually and respectfully while you're building skills. We teach 150 skills. Mm-hmm. Everything from how to take your food to a social event, to traveling, to how to keep your home safe from food overstimulation, et cetera, et cetera. It's a long list of skills. So we have advocates who are, I would call them expert at peer support. And now I'm sending them out. I'm asking them, please go to your state regulations, look up the requirements to provide peer support and be reimbursed for it. Mm-hmm. And Medicaid started reimbursing last year, and we think Medicare is going to start this year.
Wow.
So this could be an important source of funding for people like us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'd like to dial back and, for our listeners, define a processed food, because I think a lot of people, when you think about the basic things, they may think pasta is a pretty basic food. Mm-hmm. They may think, oatmeal is an unprocessed food, or rice. Mm-hmm. But can you talk about what is a processed food? What makes a food processed? And yeah. Okay.
So it's whenever you concentrate a food, it's the process of concentrating. So if you were to chew on sugar cane, it'd be really hard to get addicted to it. Mm-hmm. Or it'd be really hard to get enough of it into your system to hurt you. But when it's been crystallized or powdered or made into a syrup, it can get into your system really quickly, and you get the high and the crash, which are the hallmarks of cravings. Mm-hmm. I do want to, so sure, any kind of a concentrated sweetener. And for some people, they've become so sensitive that even a high-sugar fruit is going to cause them cravings and loss of control. Mm-hmm. Any carbohydrate that's been ground into a powder, so flour, especially flour, whether it's bean flour or guava flour, it's it's in a powder, and it's the same reason why cocaine and heroin and I don't know, all of those drugs are sold as powders because they get into your system very quickly. You can then get that dopamine surge and get the high. But, of course, it's followed by a crash, and it's in the crash where the cravings become so intense that all you can think about is getting more, and that's why we have our obesity epidemic. Excessive salt. So sugar and flour, sugar activates the dopamine pathway. Flour seems to be associated with the serotonin pathway. Excessive salt and gluten and dairy all activate the opioid pathway.
Interesting.
And then the excessive fat, so this is a big danger for people who are going on to carnivore or keto food plans. You can just have that joy of getting onto a keto or carnivore food plan of release from the sugar cravings. But if you don't learn all the craving management skills, then what happens is it transfers to fat addiction. It's a different pathway. It's not the dopamine pathway. It's the cannabinoid pathway, which is named after cannabis.
Yeah.
All of these pathways are activated by drugs. They're all named after drugs, L-Dopa and opium and cannabis. But they're activated by these concentrated foods.
That's fascinating. And makes so much sense.
So if anybody really wants to see and I know people are probably listening like, oh, that's not possible. But go, if you really want to see the science behind this, the textbook, and it's available on Amazon, is Processed Food Addiction Foundations, Assessment, and Recovery. It took me 3 years. The world came together and gave me 3 years in which to research and write that textbook. It has 2,000 studies cited in it, and Chapter 6 is about the food. And so you will see for each one of those categories that I just mentioned, the studies. Like, this is not unknown. It's in the research, especially since we got brain imaging equipment in the
functional
late 1990s. You can just see those pathways lighting up. Really good research.
I have a question that keeps coming to my head. Is alcohol, like ethanol, is that a processed food? Do you consider that?
Yes. In fact, for my doctoral dissertation, I took the diagnostic criteria for alcoholism, and I demonstrated that those criteria work to diagnose processed food addiction. In other words, the same behaviors that make up the diagnosis for alcoholism are present in the use of processed foods. And in the textbook, there are 11 criteria. There's a full chapter on each one of those 11 criteria showing that behavior exists in processed food consumption. So I don't know if you'd be interested, Dr. Flagstaff, but if you think your listeners would like to know what those 11, I call them 11 signs, 11 signs of processed food addiction. I could run through them real quick.
Yes, we do have time. We have about 10 minutes. Ryan's giving us a thumbs up.
Okay.
He's taking
So
notes.
let me just run through them pretty quickly. Number one is unintended use. You have a plan. You're not going to eat the processed foods, but then you're eating them. Number two is failure to cut back. So I saw a study recently saying that 99% of people who lose weight, so they are able to cut back, 99% of them regain it.
Yes.
Within 3 years. So that's, this is widespread. Number 3 is time spent. It's not just time spent going and getting it and recovering it, but it's also time spent thinking about it. Number 4 is cravings. And we do have research showing that cravings increase with BMI. So when you see that, 83, 84% of the U.S. is overweight, obese, or severely obese, and it's getting worse every year, you know that, number 1, you have 84% of the country engaged in unintended use. Nobody intends to gain weight unless, they're thin. So you've got 80% of the Americans meeting criteria at number 1. And then because cravings coincide with BMI, you got 84% of the country meeting the criteria for number 4.
Right.
And then failure to cut back. That's also going to be well over 80% of the country. So you only have to meet 6 of these 11 signs before you have a severe case. And if there's one thing I got out of writing the textbook, it is that most Americans have this severely. And that means that's why this deeply comprehensive program that we offer is essential. I mean, that's people come in, they've tried things, never worked, but they get success because they're getting enough support. Number 5 is failure to fulfill roles. We know that obese people do not make the same kind of money as other people. Number 6 is relationship problems, also evidence for that. Number 7 is activities given up. You see just lots and lots of civic activities don't have volunteers anymore. Then you get into hazardous use. People think, hazardous use, that's drunk driving. Well, people are also eating and driving. It's the second most common non-driving activity performed while driving. Number 1, of course, is cell phones. Then you also have people who are, their body shape is such they can't see their feet. They're tripping, they're falling over, but they're still eating. So then you have use in spite of knowledge of consequences. We have 93% of the country with diet-related diagnoses. You have withdrawal syndrome, where people are eating, but they're not hungry. Well, in that case, they're eating because they're in withdrawal. In a recent study, they're eating to avoid withdrawal. A recent study showed that in a group of obese people, most of them, I don't remember the exact number, most of them had an episode of eating when not hungry in a 2-week period. And then you have tolerance. So this is remarkable. I mentioned at the beginning that 73% people are eating in the U.S., 73% of their food in processed foods. But that's up from like 50-some% in the 1980s. So across the entire population, you see people eating more and more and more and more of these, and that meets that criteria where you're using more and getting less satisfaction from it. And I do just want to hop in here and say one other thing. I'm using a number of 73%. People are going to look in the newspaper and they're going to see, 53%. And it's because that 53% doesn't include sugar and flour and dairy products that you're making at home. It's just weird. It's just weird that it doesn't include it. But if you include the sugar, flour, dairy products being made at home, then it's 73%.
Like homemade cookies.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's insane.
Okay.
Like there is a group of people who say, well, if you make your cookies at home,
they're not processed.
It's okay. That's like saying if you make your meth at home or if you make your crack at home, it's okay.
Or you distill your own alcohol.
No, in fact, it's worse because now you have a lot of queuing a lot of triggering, a lot of food stimulation in the home. Mm-hmm. You have the smell. You're storing the ingredients. Mm-hmm. Those are all big triggers. Mm. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. We're almost at time, and I want to thank you so much. This has been so enlightening. And
I'm so glad to be connecting with you again.
Yeah, thank you. And I will use this. And what would be the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, just food addiction reset at Gmail is covered by our staff. And if you would like that video, how processed foods are related to 20 chronic illnesses, please email us at foodaddictionreset@gmail.com.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. Have a great day.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us, and we'll go out for this break right now.
And now, more Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton.
Hi, and welcome back. We just tied up an amazing interview with Dr. Joan Ifland, who's a food addiction specialist and has been in the field for quite a while. She actually probably is the pioneer who developed this field. She gave us so much information about the history of food addiction and as it pertains to the health of the American population. And go back and listen again. I took notes myself of the 11 signs of food addiction. I found them in myself. And if you satisfy just six of these, it's severe addiction. So I think that so many of us in this country are addicted to food. And how do we overcome that? Dr. Ifland does talk about ways to connect with people, find people who are not addicted, people who can provide support and connection, to provide a positive reflection of what an optimal lifestyle would be. And that is one of the basic ways to anchor yourself to come out of this addictive pathway. I'm offering programs now in my practice that are comprehensive, that provide this mentoring, and a program that's quite intense, that can be done. It's intense in that it covers a lot, and it's not that difficult. I tailor it to each person. It's unique. Each person has their own program that I designed just for them. And it helps satisfy this connection, this pathway that will help make turning around the ship much easier and finding an optimal path that will help you find true health and wellness. And you can find that, a way to connect to me, with a free connection call on BethClaxtonMD.com. And please share this interview with your friends, family, loved ones, people who you know need to hear it, which is probably all of us. And I look forward to being with you again next week on Saturdays at 9 on KAZM Mellow Mountain Radio, 106.5 FM and 780 AM. This is Dr. Beth Claxton. You've been listening to Rooted in Healing, and I want all of you to find whatever it is that makes you feel joy. It's one of the best ways to heal deep inside.